Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to replace the receptacle. This is your standard 15 amp receptacle. And to find the circuit, I'm using the circuit breaker finder here. It's a Home Depot item. The model number is ET300. This is very helpful in ways that you don't have to turn off circuit breakers just to find the exact breaker that pertains to that outlet you're changing. This one pinpoints the circuit breaker, so it kind of, eliminates the guessing work out of flipping breakers on and off. This is the outlet that we're replacing. It's your old standard duplex receptacle. Okay, so here we'll start by connecting the transmitter. There's two parts to the circuit tracer here. There's your transmitter and your receiver. So this goes right under the plug. You'll see that there's a red indicator light that it's actually turned on and it's energized. So now it's transmitting a frequency through the electrical lines to where this receiver will pick up and seek for that particular transmission. So let's go back over to the panel and see if we can track down the circuit, and I'll show you exactly how this works and how it actually finds the circuit breaker for this particular outlet. Okay, so here we're at the electrical panel. You go through every single breaker first. Picks up on different frequencies, but the actual frequency it wants, it would always go back to. So here it's picking up this breaker, which is breaker number 5, 1, 3, 5. So it's this 20 amp breaker here. So as soon as you turn that off, that signal should go away. So currently that transmitter is in the off position, so it's no longer transmitting that wave. We'll go back to the outlet to see if it actually turned off. So right here we're back at the receptacle. You notice the red indicator light is off, so we know it's completely off. But just for good measures, you always want to keep this handy with you. This is a no contact voltage tester. So what this does, it turns on red if it's an energized circuit. If you plug it right into here, if it was energized, it would turn red, and as you can see here, it's not turning on, so we know it's de-energized. So let's start by removing the cover plate. Once it's exposed, I always like to double check things, to make sure that it's not energized before pulling it apart. Now once the wiring is exposed, double check with your non-voltage contact tester, just making sure that nothing is energized in there. Sometimes you have multiple circuits going into the box, but they don't necessarily terminate into the receptacle, so you have to double check to make sure that nothing is hot in there. In this case, everything's de-energized. So now that we have the wires exposed, we can start cutting them. Give it a nice tug just to make sure the connections are done properly. Tuck it in as far as you possibly can in there. Trim them down so they're pretty much even. Make sure then when you make connections that all the wires line up to each other. So when you make the connection, it makes a proper connection, because if you have one wire like this, the rest like this, the wire that's not lined up with the others, it's not going to make a good connection, and sometimes it comes out loose. and that's where we start having problems. So make sure they line up correctly. All three of them are lined up. Give it a nice twist so we feel some tension. It doesn't have to be crazy tight. It doesn't have to be twisted crazily. It just has to be enough to where you feel the force. Give it a nice tug. You know that your connections are made properly. Push it in as far as you can. Okay, and then give yourself a little something like this. That should be enough for the receptacle. Okay, and now the black. Make sure the three line up correctly there. A nice tug. And push it in. So now we'll start with the ground. Make sure it's nice and tight. Give it a nice tug. Okay, now the white. You know which one's the white. The brass one is usually the hot, and the silver one is usually the white. So if you look at the receptacle, the longer slot, it's usually the neutral, which is a white. The shorter slot, that's your hot, which is typically the brass, which connects to the black wire. And of course, your center is your ground, which is your green or your bare copper. Make sure they're nice and tight so they don't come apart. Okay, so all your connections are made. It's ready to push back in. So I like to guide the screws in there, just screw them in a couple threads into the box. Once they're screwed in there, I like to push it in to make sure that the wires are nicely tucked in there and room to push this thing all the way in. Once it's in there, I can keep on screwing it in. I don't over tighten these, just enough to where you feel some pressure. Not too crazy. So once it's in there, what I like to do is I like to run a level to make sure it's perfectly level. As you can see, it's not, so I have to push it over a little bit. It still wants to go a little bit this way. Now you can tighten it a little bit more, but not too crazy. Okay, and now we're ready for the cover plate, for the face plate here. Now these cover plates or these face plates here, they don't have to be over tightened, just enough for it to seat on there properly. They don't have to be crazily tightened. I like to leave these screws in a vertical position there. Okay, this is just a comparison between the two, the new and the old. This is a Detector style, this is a newer style. This is of course your older style. Now we can go back and turn on the circuit to make sure it actually works. So we have the power back on, everything turned over just right. Just wanted to make sure that it actually works. Typically you'll have a plug tester or something that will detect the power. So as you can see here, you have a red LED light just to signify that there's power. As well, going back to this guy here, you can actually plug it in and now it's testing that it actually works. As you can see, only the hot makes it turn on. If you plug it in on the neutral, it doesn't turn on. So the hot's the one you need to be worried about. But yeah, it's working. Okay, so this is the finished product here. Hope you guys found it useful and helpful, and thank you for watching.